In 1971, the United States broke the promise that held the global economy together. Every dollar in the world was supposed to be backed by gold. Nixon cancelled that overnight. And here's what should have happened. The dollar should have collapsed. Instead, it became more powerful than ever. This video explains the real mechanism, one that 99% of petrodollar videos get wrong. The Bretton Woods Agreement, signed in 1944, made the dollar the world's anchor currency. Every dollar was convertible to gold at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce. For nearly 3 decades, this was the foundation of global trade. Then, on August 15, 1971, Richard Nixon made a unilateral announcement that changed the global monetary system forever. Nixon ended gold convertibility overnight. The dollar was now backed by nothing, or at least nothing obvious. Most economists at the time expected the dollar to weaken significantly. A few predicted a monetary crisis, but something unexpected happened. The dollar held, and then it strengthened. The answer begins in the Middle East. In October 1973, Arab members of OPEC launched an oil embargo in response to US support for Israel during the Yom Kippur War. The effect was immediate. Oil prices quadrupled, from roughly $3 per barrel to $12 in a matter of months. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the UAE, and other Gulf exporters were suddenly accumulating dollars faster than their domestic economies could absorb them. This created a problem for those countries and an opportunity for the United States. In 1974, the United States and Saudi Arabia established the Joint Commission on Economic Cooperation. Saudi oil revenues, accumulated in dollars, were channeled into US Treasury securities and Western financial markets. This process became known as petrodollar recycling. Here's the loop. An oil importer pays Saudi Arabia in dollars. Saudi Arabia can't spend all those dollars domestically. Saudi Arabia buys US Treasury bonds. The US government receives financing, US financial markets deepen, the dollar becomes more indispensable, and the cycle starts again. This wasn't a conspiracy, it wasn't even a formal treaty, it was a structural feedback loop, one that made the dollar more useful the more it was used. At the same time, offshore dollar markets, known as eurodollars, were expanding rapidly, creating a global banking system that operated almost entirely in dollars. The petrodollar recycling system gave the United States 3 structural advantages that persist today. Countries importing oil needed dollars. That meant every central bank in the world needed dollar reserves. The dollar became the world's default savings account. French Finance Minister Valéry Giscard d'Estaing called it the exorbitant privilege. The US could borrow from the world cheaply because the world needed its currency. In 2022, the US and its allies immobilized approximately $300 billion in Russian central bank reserves. That was only possible because those reserves were held in dollar-denominated assets. The petrodollar system gave the US a financial weapon. The system has held for 50 years, but the assumptions underneath it are being tested. China has been building alternative settlement infrastructure, including bilateral oil for yuan agreements. In 2023, Saudi Arabia was invited to join BRICS, a bloc explicitly exploring alternatives to dollar-based trade. As of 2026, it has not completed full accession. Russia, Iran, and Venezuela have sought oil buyers willing to settle outside the dollar system. Whether those alternatives succeed depends on something the original system had that alternatives currently lack: network effects at global scale. The dollar isn't dominant because of gold, and it isn't dominant because of a secret deal. It's dominant because everyone uses it, and everyone uses it because everyone else uses it. That's the real petrodollar system, and it's much harder to disrupt than a treaty. The dollar was never backed by oil. It was backed by the system that oil money built, and dismantling a system is much harder than cancelling a deal. Up next,